Being social is what keeps us humans alive. Psychology says that we need social contact in order to survive. With the development of technology in the last few decades, the ways in which we are social have quickly evolved. With social standards evolving, everything else must grow with it in order to keep up. In just a few short years, technology has been engraved into our daily lives. To some, it may be even as essential as water. But this begs the question, if technology continues to develop at such a rapid pace, what could this mean for further down the road? With every episode of the 2011 Netflix show Black Mirror, we are given a satirical look into how technology has the potential to destroy the social norm and implement a more technologically advanced social standard. With the exploration of this series of Black Mirror episodes, one can see that because of social media's impact on modern-day society, we could see a decrease in the development of healthy relationships, an increase in the lack of privacy, and in the constant spotlight. Like many of us, you often find yourself caught up in the trend of posting everything on social media, needing that constant feedback. But imagine if you were constantly ranked right to your face by any and everyone. At the beginning of Season 3 of Black Mirror, we are given a look into the near future with the episode number 1, cleverly named Nosedive. The episode discusses what it would be like to live in society where people are ranked and rated based on their actions, social media posts, and just everyday life. This concept is not that far off from becoming implemented into the real world. Recently, China announced that they would be administering a social credit system into their government by 2020. This system allows for people to be praised or punished based on their scores. How do they know if someone's being a good citizen, you ask? By placing cameras all over the city to ensure everyone follows the rules. Just like in the Black Mirror episode, Nosedive, people can be punished by not being able to afford certain housing, their children not being able to get into the best school, and even being unable to buy a plane or train ticket. It's really frightening how life has begun to imitate art. The storyline for Nosedive follows a girl named Lacey Pound, who is average on the social scale in this dystopian society. She doesn't have many friends, she lives with her brother, and when an old friend calls her up about her wedding, Lacey sees this as an opportunity to move up the social scale, due to the fact that her old friend is higher on the scale. It's pretty twisted, I know. But in order for Lacey to be able to afford her house, she must move up the scale. Her best friend Naomi is the way to do it. In the scene where Lacey is discussing her interest in the house she is being shown, you see a real estate agent use the hologram to show Lacey what it would be like to live in a house. Lacey gazes at the man who she has been paired up with on the hologram. At this point, it is evident how truly isolated and lonely this rating system is, and we see this progress through the entire episode. A big reason why Lacey even wants this house is because she believes that she can develop her dream life here, and that dream life could include a long-term relationship. Lacey is chasing after a completely unrealistic expectation of life. And she expects that when she gets to her perfect life, she will be undeniably happy.
Paralleled metrics on romantic genesis. But I don't even have the something worth losing, not yet, you know. I mean, I'm still fighting for that.
And what is that?
I don't know.
The writers frequently make note of Naomi being the perfect and pretty friend. She always got all the guys, so it seems as though Lacey is desperate not only to lead a life like Naomi's, but also to attempt to make a meaningful connection in such a disconnected world. The only relationship Lacey had was with her brother.
Sorry, but I miss the normal you. Before this obsession, when we had conversations, remember? This whole ranking thing.
Around him was the only time she could truly be herself. But when her brother decides he wants nothing to do with her because of her insane standards for life, he cuts her loose.
I didn't want them to know I was sharing a skanky ass cave with Mr. 3 Point.
Lacey embarks on the journey to the wedding. This is her attempt to hold on to the longest friendship that she's had with her childhood best friend Naomi. Not a single thing about the world that Lacey lives in is real. The relationships are completely fake, and people are only trying to get up the popularity scale. Everyone's tiptoeing around each other's emotions, totally disregarding their own, just so that you don't end up looking like a bad guy. That would be emotionally draining. How are you expected to enjoy the beautiful days when you're not allowed to show emotion when you have the bad days? If I could go into the world of a Barbie doll, I imagine that this is what it would be like. Gives a whole new meaning to life in plastic. It's fantastic. The only real human connection Lacey establishes is with the truck driver. The truck driver gives her real advice because she sees that this is another girl drowning in the waves of social media, seeing her obsession with perfection beginning to develop. People living in Lacey's world have no grasp of reality. They're all just playing the numbers game, and then when they finally do get a taste of the real world, it hits them like a truck.
And until I get there, I have to play the numbers game. You know, we all do. That's what we're in. That's how the fucking world works. Look.
When the truck driver explains her husband's story, Lacey almost becomes robotic. She starts off empathetic, and then it looks like she resets into societal mode and no longer has empathy for people. You don't have to have empathy when you don't have meaningful relationships. When Lacey is imprisoned by the end of the episode, she is locked up, but she is free from the shackles of social media and society. She's able to understand the beauty of emotion and life. The episode has already begun to take place in China with a social ranking system. So what could that mean for the spread of this idea? Allowing others to determine your worth? That would cause many mental health crises, because no one would be able to keep up with being perfect all the time. With the development of social media, people's numbers will become their biggest priority. We're going to have a whole generation of people who don't know how to socialize and have a heart-to-heart conversation. Even Lacey shows signs of having trouble interacting. Meaningful relationships will completely cease to exist in the future, with a lack of empathy because everyone is so self-absorbed. No one is willing to help each other. No alliances, just every person for themselves. Freedom of speech is great and all, but when that stupid opinion you made on Twitter is taken literally, that can't be good. This episode of Black Mirror, Hated in the Nation, really focuses on privacy and thinking before you post. Right off the bat, we're introduced to a character named Blue who formerly worked in tech crime. Working in such a field, she knows what technology has the power to do to society. She says, "Right, but now they can't help but entrusting their little companions. These things absorb who we are and know everything about us," which is completely true. We often don't give a second thought to the idea of our privacy being stripped from us when we agree to the terms and conditions of social media platforms. A question we must ask ourselves is, who will have access to this information? We see foreshadowing in this episode of Black Mirror with the complete extinction of bees. The honeybees have been replaced with little robots that fly around as substitute for what this dystopian society has lost. These new bees have cameras and are able to virtually go anywhere. What a great opportunity for the government to use this technology to their advantage. Because realistically, how often is the government going to do something to save the planet without having their own agenda? This is exactly why we must ask ourselves questions and critically think about our decisions before we make them, so that things like the government watching you through an army of bees doesn't fly right over your head. Get it? Fly. Social media is kind of a crazy concept if you think about it. It can have all of your information and completely take away your privacy, or it can give internet trolls a way of anonymously giving their opinion on any topic at any time. And there's no way of stopping it because that's their right to free speech.
We simply set the behavior and leave them to it. They even construct these.
It was like having a whole weather system turn against me. Just hate message after hate message around the clock.
each hive
all
is a
piling on.
replication hall.
It's hard to describe what that does to your head. Suddenly there's
Exactly.
a million
They
invisible
create
people all
duplicates
talking
of
about
themselves,
how they
create
despise
more
you.
hives and
It's
spread
like a
out
mental illness.
exponentially.
In Hated in the Nation, when the hashtag #Death2 begins to trend, the person with the most votes gets to die that day. Technology is a tool. As with all tools, if used responsibly, they can benefit us. But if used wildly, can result in mass destruction of society.
What is it that brings you here?
For example, some of the bees were implemented into the society to pollinate. They were instead hacked and used to attack and kill people. The modern-day society and explosion of pop culture is dependent on the monkey see, monkey do sort of mentality. Whatever is trendy is what people are going to enjoy. And once something becomes trendy and people like it, it becomes difficult to get rid of it. Like the hashtag #Death2 in Hated in the Nation. It becomes a trend among thousands of people who are adding fuel to this already large flame. Hated in the Nation is a cautionary tale that discusses needing to be careful of your privacy and what you post on social media. You may think that you're participating in a harmless trend, but who knows, it might turn out to be fatal. For decades, Hollywood has been notorious for having their great stars be slaves to their craft. Now, with the implementation of social media and technology, fame doesn't stop when you're away from the paparazzi. It follows you everywhere you go. We're living in the golden age of social media, where in order to be successful celebrities amongst the Generation Z kids, you must have social media and post constantly. With this constant activity of social media, celebrities become more marginalized because they have less periods of time away from the media, because it follows them everywhere. Paparazzi don't need to be the ones to take photos of celebrities anymore, because their fans now have social media and phones, and they can do it for them. Fans are constantly watching their favorite celebrities to see what they are up to. In the Black Mirror episode Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2, we are introduced to pop sensation Ashley O, who is sick of her pop star life. Her manager and her Aunt Carol makes money off of Ashley's success, so she doesn't want her career to end. If her career ends, Carol's money also ends. The recent sales of the Ashley O interactive dolls are not enough for Carol. Ashley has no creative control over anything, and she had been given drugs to keep her from having control. Rachel, one of Ashley's friends, is clearly very easily perpetuated by Ashley 2, the doll she receives for her birthday. Her sister begins to worry that Rachel is being too easily manipulated by the Ashley 2 doll and hides it away. Jack did believe that she was doing it for her own good. She was so focused on that doll that Rachel didn't even have time to make friends at school, considering that she was the new girl. When Ashley goes into a coma induced by her aunt, Ashley is completely exploited. Before the coma, Ashley refused to continue writing songs, and while she was in the coma, they were able to extract songs from her dreams using technology. If this is the future, you don't even need a person to be conscious. They're taking their music without her consent. It just feels so sleazy and wrong. It's foreshadowing how the music industry will chew you up and spit you out. The girls later discover that the entirety of Ashley O's brain has been copied into the doll Ashley 2.
Are you okay?
The girls realize that maybe Ashley O isn't a good influence after all. Young minds are so vulnerable to manipulation, especially when it's done by large companies and corporations specifically targeted at that age group. Children don't stand a chance. It's crazy how publicist makes you feel like you know the celebrity, when in fact you don't know a thing about them. It could be difficult to be a celebrity right now, so suffocating to constantly have to be in celebrity mode. At the end of the episode, when they're rolling the credits, you see Ashley on stage singing what sounds like her old song, but with the lyrics changed. She sings, "Head like a hole, black is your soul, I'd rather die than give you control." bow down to the one that you serve, you're going to get what you deserve. This kind of seems like a jab at her aunt. I think when Ashley's performing on stage, this symbolizes her freedom, being away from her aunt and the chains of the music industry. Through the exploration of a series of Black Mirror episodes, one can see that because of social media's impact on modern-day society, we see a decrease in the development of healthy relationships, a lack of privacy, and a constant spotlight. All of which are linked and liking things just for the sake of them being trendy. People must come out and discuss their opinions. You don't necessarily have to follow the crowd. People that are black sheep and different are the ones that dictators and world leaders are scared of, to be completely honest, because they don't have to follow the crowd and they can think for themselves. Social media is fueled by trend. So if you get enough people to agree with what you're thinking, maybe you could break the trend. The scariest part about the exploration of Black Mirror episodes is that these scenarios could actually happen. It's very subtle, but this is the direction that society is being steered in. And honestly, people need to wake up and realize that there's no other way of stopping technology and the pressures of social media from taking over. I don't think that social media was made with vicious intents necessarily, but unfortunately, as mentioned before, tools can often be used as weapons in the grand scheme of things. I hope that this satirical point of view is picked up by most of Black Mirror's viewers. Don't watch Black Mirror as if it's a show anymore. Watch it as if it's a look into the future at what we could become. Scary but true, we're not that far off.